Hello, I want to welcome you to this webinar. Thank you for taking the time today to join this presentation on improving the customer experience. This webinar is part of the 2019 Telecommunication webinar series. My name is Pat Hall, and I will be moderating today's session. I am part of the Esri Industry Solutions team here in Redlands, California. We have a great group of presenters for you today. I'm joined by Patrick Halls, the Solution Engineering Team Lead, and Solution Engineer Tyler Pilarczyk. Thank you for presenting today. As today's facilitator and on behalf of my colleagues, I hope that you'll find our time together to be interesting and informative. We have a wonderful lineup for you, and I know that you will find it worthwhile. The 2019 Telecommunications webinar series was put together to give you a more complete understanding of how a modern GIS platform can be used by telecommunications companies. The series opened in March with a focus on network transformation. Today's session addresses improving the customer experience. Then in July, we will gather at the Esri User Conference. In September, we will take a close look at revenue growth. In October, we'll meet up once again at the GeoConnects conference in Atlanta this year. And then the webinar series will conclude in November with a look at resource optimization. Don't worry if you can't make any of these sessions in real time. All of the webinars are recorded and links will be shared with registrants. Remember to register to make sure you get the links, even if you can't attend the live webinar. Today, we hope to raise your awareness about what is possible, see what others are doing, and to learn about some new capabilities that Esri has been working on. It's our goal that you can use these ideas to empower your work in new ways. First, just a couple of housekeeping issues. Please take a moment to look at the GoToWebinar control panel. There you can adjust your sound options and adjust your view. As we go along, you will probably think of some questions, and those are very important to us. Please use the question box to type in those questions at any time throughout the webinar. At the end, we will answer as many questions as time permits, and any questions requiring longer answers or some technical questions that are better answered by one of our specialist colleagues will be handled individually after the webinar. Please take a look and note that you can also switch between telephone or computer speaker audio and adjust your view between full or partial screen. Again, today's webinar is being recorded, and you will receive an email in about a week with a link to the video of the recorded webinar. These are the agenda items that we'll work through over the next 45 minutes or so. We'll look briefly at industry trends and their relationship to customer experience. Patrick will give us a quick look at the state of the art in GIS, and he and Tyler will have some wonderful demonstrations of ArcGIS in action. Then I'll review a couple case study examples, and finally we'll have some question and answer. I know we will all come away with new ideas to apply. Things are changing rapidly, and as we look across the industry, we see transformation. Telecom, and in fact, most industries, are undergoing a digital transformation, rebuilding from the inside out. We'd like to look at the key trends that are shaping this transformation and the drivers that are affecting change. First, resource optimization. Companies seek not only to reduce operating expenses, but also get the most out of their assets. Implementing best practices helps reduce operating costs, plan effectively, and optimize resource utilization. Capital is limited, yet customers want new products and services, and that requires additional investment. This means we need the best tools to get the most out of our existing plant and investment dollars. In terms of revenue growth, technology can really help reveal new sales opportunities, provide market intelligence, and counter those competitive threats. Growth provides the cash flow for more investment needed to grow the network, and informed planning drives efficient deployment of assets and ways to monetize those assets. Customer experience is where we will focus today. It's a competitive market, and if your customers aren't happy, you lose market share. And you can't grow revenue without customers. We have to look for ways to improve the customer's engagement and meet expectations along the complete customer journey. Esri helps telcos transform their networks by creating a comprehensive understanding of historical and real-time service demand. Without making the network better and more efficient, you can't grow revenue and the customer base. Companies are also looking for new products and digital services that leverage IoT and big data. And Esri helps bring disparate types of data together with state-of-the-art analytics and visualization for improved business intelligence, getting that information to everyone who needs it. As telcos examine the customer experience, they often start at the beginning, initial service delivery. Then customer care and support become very important. Daily operations and maintenance directly affect customers and the services they rely on, and we think of our constant focus on service assurance. You can make a strong case that the customer experience hinges on communication. We want to meet the customer's expectation for communication about restoration times, service agreements, and incident logging. Good communication leads to more engagement with the company, greater loyalty, and ultimately a better relationship. If we can improve the way we analyze information, we can communicate with the customer in ways that are meaningful to them. If we help visualize information in an engaging way, we can dramatically improve the customer's experience and their relationship to a service provider around reliability and capacity analysis. Finally, anything we can do to be more cost-effective, efficient, and timely helps the customer in areas like new connections, installation intervals, and even tracking our workforce. Better workflows and processes help improve customer service and satisfaction. Let's take just a moment to get to know the audience a little better and see how you are currently using GIS in these ways for customer experience. Please indicate where are you using GIS and maps today. You can click on more than one: communication and engagement, visualization, analytics, workflows, or possibly none of the above. All right, the answers are coming in. I'll give you just a moment here, and we'll close the poll and look at the results. Well, some good diversity across the board and a real interest in customer engagement. A lot of people really using ArcGIS for visualization, and that's very encouraging. We're going to look at some examples and hopefully give you some new ways to address customer service. Patrick, I'm going to hand it off to you. Can you give us your perspective on what's been happening in the use of GIS?
Thanks, Pat. It's great to see GIS being used by our audience today to enhance communication and engagement, improve those visualizations and analytics, and really streamline workflows and processes. And Esri's ArcGIS is a complete GIS for telecommunications because it empowers all aspects of an organization with geospatial infrastructure powered by the Esri Geospatial Cloud. ArcGIS offers a GIS system of record, system of engagement, and system of insight that all leverage the power of location to help improve customer experience for your business. It's been specifically designed for telecommunications as an open platform, services-based, and now fully distributed. It's also available on your own machines or in the cloud or as software as a service. And the intention of the design is to really support individuals, teams, other systems, and really the entire organization. Esri's GIS platform is the only complete GIS changing how telecoms do their work and directly impacting the drivers of the business. Esri's ArcGIS can help your organization improve customer experience by facilitating better communication and engagement through maps, improving network visualization and analytics, and really streamlining workflows and processes with GIS. Now, let's go ahead and see ArcGIS in action and how a complete GIS can really support your customer experience goals. But before we do so, we've got one additional audience poll. So for this poll, where is your organization really focusing to improve customer experience? And again, you can select all that apply here. Is it during the initial service delivery and maybe optimizing field technician routes? Or is it in the customer care and support? Maybe it's keeping that network up and running and operations and maintenance, or possibly during service assurance. We've got some answers coming in. And we'll give you guys just a few more seconds here to answer your questions. And we'll go ahead and close the poll and share the results. All right, fairly evenly distributed, but most of you are using ArcGIS in the operations and maintenance. All right. So let's get on to the demonstration. And from those results of the poll, we did see that the majority of the audience are improving customer experience in multiple areas. But for this demonstration today, we will focus on scenarios in that operations and maintenance. And for the first part of the demonstration, we will highlight ArcGIS capabilities for visualization and analytics, as well as communication and engagement. So to help demonstrate ArcGIS in action, I'd like to turn it over to Tyler. Tyler?
Thank you, Patrick. I'd like to show how leveraging spatial analytics within ArcGIS Pro allows us to discover new ways to enhance our overall customer experience. So for our first example, we're going to look at thousands of our business customers, where they're located, and how much bandwidth they're consuming to understand how we should allocate additional network resources. Instead of looking at these businesses as individual points, the first analysis we performed was to aggregate these points into a series of hexagon bins, which we can then symbolize to show the rates of consumption throughout our service territory. Since our data spans several years in this case, we can also begin to look at the temporal trends by using space-time cubes. With each of these cubes representing 6 months worth of data, we can start to see how this particular area is trending. Right now, it's a very concentrated spot for data consumption, but we can tell about 2 years ago, it was still at a moderate level. So to be able to illustrate all these types of trends within our data, we turn to a different process called an emerging hotspot analysis. This analysis uses statistics along with a little machine learning to pick out the points of our network that have a significant amount of bandwidth consumption, as well as those areas with a much lower amount of data consumption. If I zoom back into our Orlando area, we'll see that the downtown sector is mainly a big intensifying hotspot, meaning it's always been hot and it's getting hotter over time. If you look to the outside of these areas, we see more consecutive hotspots. These areas have always been hot and they're not really trending either way. Another key insight from this analysis is to be able to identify these new hotspots that are showing new demand in areas that we've actually never really seen before. With this analysis, we can also start to point out these remote areas that we're now starting to see more and more usage of our services, areas that we likely haven't planned to be able to support the demand that we're starting to see in this area. So through this analysis, we can start to find other ways to plan our network to be able to provide the best experience for our customers. Now, the next example I want to show focuses around network vulnerability to hazardous weather conditions. The first thing we did was bring in our fiber data, as well as the factors that would influence how vulnerable our network is. For example, we brought in our historical outage data to locate the points in our network that have experienced a high rate of outages. We've also reclassified our data, our fiber network rather, to distinguish where we have aerial plant versus underground fiber. Now we've also incorporated some real-time weather forecast data, which can either be sourced from Esri's Living Atlas, which is where we curate thousands of layers and make available to every ArcGIS user, or it could be coming from partner data services that are much more specialized. Now in this case, we are experiencing some ideal weather conditions in this part of Florida, so we're not really going to see much forecasted events. But when we first performed this analysis, we based it off the forecasts we had from Hurricane Matthew. Now the goal of this analysis is to be able to find those particular areas of our network that are especially vulnerable to a major storm and can likely cause a lot of outages. To perform the actual analysis, we've configured a model in Model Builder that essentially wraps a series of individual geoprocessing tools into a seamless and repeatable process. The first part of this model is to receive the inputs for our vulnerability analysis, which in this case is our fiber, our historical outages, and our forecasted weather. As soon as that information is processed initially, we then perform an overlay analysis that's weighted according to our vulnerability criteria. So for example, with our fiber, we're going to grade our aerial cable as much more vulnerable than our underground cable. Once we perform the overlay analysis and we generate regions within our service territory that are more susceptible to damage from a weather storm, we're then going to select parts of our network that fall within those regions to generate a result that looks like this. Those red highlighted areas on our network that will be especially vulnerable to an incoming storm, and that can cause many outages within our network and of course impact customer experience. The next thing I like to do is bring in a dashboard that we've configured that incorporates this analysis as well. Here we're using this dashboard to be able to monitor our network's performance by pulling in from a variety of different systems. For example, on our top left, we have a total outage count, which is coming directly from our outage management system. Next to that is information coming from our billing systems to notify us of how many customers are without phone, TV, or broadband service. Below these are how we're tracking our technicians out in the field as they're performing their assignments. We can track their location, monitor their progress, and see how many damage assessments they've been able to collect. If we shift over to the right part of our dashboard, this information is actually being pulled from the public. So this can be recent tweets that are making reference to our network or services we provide, as well as service issues that have been documented by actual customers. Now, the last thing I'd like to point out are these two windows above the map. This part of the dashboard is incorporating that analysis that we saw before in ArcGIS Pro by calculating how many miles of vulnerable network we have and how many subscribers are connected to that part of the network. Since in this case, we don't have a forecasted weather event just yet, these are going to be left blank, but we can expect that to change should we experience a storm. So this is our internal version of how we're monitoring our network performance, but we also have a public-facing dashboard that we configured just so the public can understand how many outages our network's experiencing, as well as our average time to restoration. If a user opens this outage map, is experiencing an outage but doesn't see it documented in the map, they can actually report their own outage by completing this survey within the dashboard by providing their contact information, how they prefer to be contacted, the type of issue they're experiencing, their location, and of course, any other comments related to the outage. Now, when they submit this survey, if I go back to my original dashboard, we'll see that this service issue just appeared on my list of service issues that I can then see in my list or see on the map itself. So the recap, we started in ArcGIS Pro performed a couple analyses to learn how we can enhance customer experience, whether that's by allocating additional network resources or determining which parts of our network are vulnerable to severe weather. We then viewed an operations dashboard that allowed us to monitor information coming from several systems to give us a holistic view of our network's performance. And lastly, we saw a public-facing dashboard that allowed us to communicate to customers where we have outages and how soon we expect to restore our network, all while allowing our customers the option to report their own outage. Now, Patrick, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Tyler. So for the second part of the demonstration, we'll see some ArcGIS capabilities that cover all three of these areas: visualization and analytics, workflows and processes, as well as the communication and engagement. So let us jump right back in to that operations dashboard. So what we'll see in this next part of the demonstration is a storm as it rolls across our service area. And what you'll notice is that the number of outages, the amount of vulnerable network, and those live tweets will all be updating dynamically as that storm starts to really impact our network and our services. In the map, you can see the current location of a particular hurricane that's about to come across our service territory. And using the current forecast of that storm, along with other inputs into our vulnerability analysis, we can now see that we have a few areas that we do have vulnerable network. And we have about 5,000 vulnerable subscribers. So as the storm starts to pass over our network, you'll start to see the outages go up, as well as automatically rerunning our vulnerability analysis based on the repositioning of the storm and the forecasts. Now, as that storm completely passes through our service territory, we have a few outages that we need to resolve and get our network back up and running to ensure that high quality of customer experience. If we zoom into the Fort Pierce area, what we'll notice are a couple of outages that have occurred in the same locations of the network vulnerability results that were produced. Now what we need to do is perform a damage assessment to really understand and locate the root cause of these outages so that we can get that network back up and running. But let's use social media as a way to try and have some insight into where those root causes are. Using social media provided to us through an Esri partner, we're able to see the exact location of where these tweets fall on a map, as well as any insight that may be a part of this tweet. For example, this particular tweet, someone has posted a photo of some downed trees across some aerial plant. And in that same location, we have a current outage as well as existing aerial plant data. So this would be a good location for us to initially start our damage assessment and send a field technician to. Now, a work order for this damage assessment could be automatically generated by an integrated work order management system, or you could leverage a lightweight ArcGIS app to assign work using Workforce for ArcGIS. Now, for the field technician to be able to go out and collect their damage assessment report, ArcGIS offers a suite of mobile applications that allow for disconnected as well as connected data collection. Now, Survey 123 is a form-centric application that has smart form capability. This allows you to configure smart forms that will react based off of a user's input. For example, if my answer for my report type is a damaged asset, I'll get some additional fields specific to reporting on a damaged asset. My first field here is entering in the asset ID, and I could use the integrated barcode scanner to scan that asset and automatically populate the ID. I also have a listing here of all the assets available. And for this particular damage assessment, I'll choose fiber cable. And the condition that I notice is that there's span on the ground, and I'm going to recommend that we need new strand. And of course, while I'm out in the field, I could easily attach any photos of the actual damaged asset and then report the location of the actual damage. Now I'll submit this information into the back office for our operations teams. Now, if we go back to our operations dashboard, because we are using a complete GIS, as soon as those field technicians submit that damage report, it is instantly available to all of our operations teams. So I can see the exact location of the damaged asset and pull up all the report information collected from the field, including any photos that have been attached. Now, throughout this entire process, the field technician has been updating the operations team in regards to the estimated time to restoration for this outage. But we know that there are some customers also complaining about their services being down. So it would be valuable to provide them with this estimated time to restoration as well. So using ArcGIS, we can provide them with an outage viewer, like the one that Tyler previously showed. But since we know the location of all of these social media tweets or the actual locations of the households, we can provide them a link to this viewer that automatically zooms in to their exact location, providing them with the total number of outages and the estimated time to restoration for those outages in their area. Now, finally, to gauge overall customer sentiment towards your organization, ArcGIS provides a configurable dashboard for your management teams to gauge customer sentiment region by region. So if you're wanting to track the average NPS score across your service territory and maybe look at the NPS score historically and see over the past few years whether you've improved or gone down in your NPS score, or maybe you want to track social media sentiment and take a look at Twitter feeds where you have positive or negative based tweets about your organization. And all of this information is available for you to visualize across your entire service footprint, but you can give the ability for management teams to drill down to a particular region, such as our Tampa region, and get the average NPS score and any recent tweets specific to that particular region. So we just saw just a few of the ArcGIS solutions in action for the second part of our demo. Now, what we saw was ArcGIS improving visualization and analytics through a network operations dashboard that allowed our operations team to view in real time the status of the network and the progression of a storm. We also saw how ArcGIS could help streamline workflows and processes by integrating social media and the suite of ArcGIS mobile apps and a damage assessment survey, allowing for disconnected mobile data collection. And lastly, we showed a dashboard for gauging customer sentiment for improving communication and engagement, not externally, but this time internally with management teams. Now, ArcGIS is a complete GIS for telecommunications that offers focused business solutions for improving customer experience, all built on top of geospatial infrastructure. With ArcGIS, your organization will be able to meet all of your customer experience goals. And now, I'd like to turn it over to Pat to talk through a few case studies. Pat?
Excellent, Patrick, thank you. You may be wondering how this applies in a real setting. We'll look at two use cases of large organizations outside of telco and how they use the capabilities that we saw in the demo to improve the customer experience in emergencies. When it comes to emergency management, agencies are changing the way that they work. They forecast damage based on real-time data. They assess damage rapidly, managing their response and communicating with their customers and stakeholders on the web. The first example, the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services responds to large disasters the local agencies can't handle by themselves. They struggled to turn data into useful information quickly. During the Napa earthquake response a couple of years ago, California explored moving from flat maps to digital visualization to see what was possible. They wanted to see what was happening right now, not what happened 12 hours ago as they were used to, and immediately use those insights to improve their response. They wanted to give decision makers a common operational picture, knowing it would change the way that they do business. It was so successful that they made a decision to transform their mapping operation with a system of engagement. And within 9 months, they moved from almost no digital mapping to 95% digital in less than 1 year. Then in 2018, when the big California wildfires hit, they were ready. They incorporated all kinds of real-time data from multiple sources and put it onto live maps. They always had a current snapshot. Briefings and decision-making became much easier, seeing exactly what they wanted to see right now. As you see here on the screen, they had the ability to absorb data and visualize it. They tracked status on real-time dashboards and understood how to adjust their response for peak effectiveness. In 2017, Hurricane Irma pounded the Caribbean and southern Florida with 70-mile-per-hour winds and storm surge flooding. The cities of Fort Lauderdale and Key West both prepared using a web GIS strategy. They were getting information to so many more people than traditional desktop GIS, really reaching a wider audience. Due to the success, web-based mapping has become their default response to any new mapping request. They proactively use GIS before, during, and after the storm. With real-time data, they first predicted likely impacts. After the storm hit, mobile tools powered a very rapid assessment. This gave everyone an up-to-date view of conditions and coordinated operations for a faster and more collaborative response. Dashboards showed the current conditions in real time. Mobile apps in the field helped coordinate personnel and contractors. And maybe most importantly, they used all this to communicate valuable information to their residents and stakeholders. A communications company using this approach would assess their vulnerability ahead of an event, predict where the most important impacts to the network and service level agreements would occur, notify customers, and make preparations to respond as quickly as possible. Finally, we hear a lot about social media these days. It's really true, our customers are changing. Seattle City Light wanted to connect more effectively with its 400,000 plus customers. To improve two-way communication, Seattle needed a way to stay on top of events and customer concerns. They implemented a solution very much like what we saw in the demo that monitors social media and finds the most important information. They started by trying to understand customer patterns, especially during outages. Customers make social posts. They tweet things like, "My service is out." Many customers will post on social media before they even think to call the service provider. It's just incredible to be able to get that kind of information in real time. And I know that this is going to be a very big deal in the future. They look at customer sentiment feedback, outage reports, and real-time data. And they pull this all together to improve situational awareness. When somebody mentions a car hit a pole and posts a picture, Seattle City's dispatch immediately knows where to send a repair crew. The data is presented on a dashboard showing when and where customers engage. And the weather information helps them predict when outages may occur and notify their customers. When customers turn to social media to report an outage, Seattle City Light is in the know and has the tools to respond and fix the issue faster just like we saw in the demo. Well, we have covered a lot of ground here, and we do have time for some questions. There are a number of questions rolling in. Let me take a look here. The first question is, can you provide more information about the case studies? Yes, when we send out the email with the link to the recorded webinar, we will include links to the detailed case studies for everyone's reference. All right, here is another one. The question is, how did you get the tweets on the map?
Yeah, I can take that one. So there are two options to get social media feeds onto the map. One is using our real-time solution called GeoEvent Server, which allows you to have connectors into different social media streams like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook through their APIs, pulling that information in real time, using GeoEvent Server to process that and filter that data to bring it into ArcGIS and store it there so you can visualize it on a map. The other option is utilizing an Esri partner who provides access to these social media feeds. And what they have done is using natural language processing, they have honed in on the exact location of where social media tweets and posts are coming from, where a person who has posted that may not have location enabled. They can decipher location from the actual tweet information, as well as doing the pre-filtering of those tweets based off of your organization's requirements. So those are the two options for pulling in social media into ArcGIS.
Very good, thank you. Patrick, I guess this one is for you. Someone notes that you mentioned ArcGIS for Workforce and asked if you could speak a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure thing. So Workforce for ArcGIS is a two-app solution that Esri provides for work order and workforce management. The first application is a web or in-back office-based application for dispatchers to assign work orders to field technicians. It's map-centric, allowing you to place a work order at a particular location. Now that lightweight app could be stood up by itself or integrated into a work order management system to leverage the ArcGIS mapping capabilities with your enterprise work order management system. The second part of Workforce for ArcGIS is a mobile app for a field technician to see all of their work orders on a map and then update the progress of that work order. And I'll also note that Workforce is integrated with the rest of the ArcGIS mobile apps. So as you start your work order within Workforce, it presents you options to open up one of our other mobile apps to perform your survey or data collection, like Survey 123.
Perfect, thank you. Let's see, there is a question here around the weather data. The question is, where exactly did the real-time weather information come from?
Yeah, Pat, this is Tyler. I can take that one. So I mentioned this briefly during the demo, but weather data can come from different sources. I brought up Esri's Living Atlas, and that's included with Esri ArcGIS technology as a way to consume various types of data layers. So in today's example, we saw the weather data being used to do some of the predictive weather forecasting and even showing the real-time weather data in the dashboard map. That's information we curate, but we don't necessarily always source that. So we work with other data vendor partners like the NOAAs of the world and whatnot that are the source of that information. We just pull it in real time and make it easily available within our technology. And I also mentioned too, we also have some very specialized data products that come from partners too that might be a bit more robust. Either it's finer grade radar or other specialized data sets.
Perfect, thank you. All right, well, let's move on. You may be thinking, what's next? And we have a few suggestions for you. First, we'd like to encourage you to join our online communities. The LinkedIn group and the GeoNet forum are great ways to learn more, to interact with others, and to ask questions. Also, follow our social media. We have regular content that's specifically of interest to telco users. That's Esri Telecom on Twitter. We've also listed an email address here that you can use to contact us. As you think about customer experience, consider how you can apply ArcGIS to provide better information and improve customer communication. And as you do that, please think of your Esri account manager as a resource. At Esri, our focus is on helping our users do their work better. Here are some upcoming events. The next one is our annual user conference in San Diego in July. Please look for us if you're attending any of these events, or consider joining us at any and all of these. Here's one final question, and the question is, would you find it constructive to continue the conversation with Esri about how to apply GIS? Your response is private. Please indicate your preference here. Yes, you'd like to have someone contact you. You would prefer your account manager to speak with you, or nothing at this time. All right, we'll give you just a minute there. And we'll close that. Thank you for being our customer and spending your time with us today. We really appreciate your participation and hope that you found it both beneficial and enjoyable. We hope you can take away some steps that you can use to further leverage ArcGIS in your work. Please remember to look for that email in about a week with a link to the recording. When we end the webinar, you will be prompted for a very simple rating form, and we would greatly value your feedback on this webinar today. That concludes today's presentation. Please enjoy the rest of your day.